What if a celebratory day conceals a hint of tension behind its laughter? A wedding in a sunny California hotel reveals more than affection. Secrets can be floating in the atmosphere. Welcome to Revenza Tales, where joy finds mystery. Get ready for a tale that fills the heart with warmth and stirs the soul. Like, subscribe, and click that bell to come along. Leave a comment with your city and let us know. Have you ever experienced joy tinged with doubt? Let us enter into Maggie's world, where a wedding day holds both tears and truths. The California late afternoon sun danced, its golden light glinting off the chandeliers in the Grand Pacific Hotel. The opulent lobby hummed with excitement, the air heavy with the perfume of newly cut roses and waxed wood. Pacing before the mirror in the dressing room, I felt a thrill of anticipation tremble through my breast as I reapplied my lipstick a final time. It was the wedding day of my sister Jessica, a milestone that filled me with happiness. Jessica had at last discovered her soulmate, and I wished to revel in her joy from the bottom of my heart. "Maggie, ready?" my husband Robert called out, his soft knock sounding mutedly against the door. His voice held its normal warmth, mellowed with the anxious tension characteristic of significant events. 2 minutes more," I said, taking one last look at myself in the mirror. The navy blue dress Jessica had picked out for me, asserting, "This color is best for you," clung to my figure with understated beauty. Robert entered, his very presence quieting the room with inner strength. His body, honed by 12 years fighting fires, appeared even more handsome in his expensive-looking suit. We'd been together more than a decade, and yet my heart continued to flutter at the mere sight of him. "You are looking utterly gorgeous," he told me, his hands lightly on my shoulders, his touch comforting. Jessica is probably going to look amazing today as well, I thought, my thoughts going to yesterday's rehearsal. She'd caught me with only a brief glimpse of her wedding gown then, its delicate pattern stunning even in the bad light. I looked around to find his eyes and got lost in Robert's soft brown eyes. Those eyes contained an unwavering love, a constant presence in our childless but satisfying life together. "Do you believe that finding David a good man?" I asked, a thread of concern weaving through my voice. "Yes," Robert responded firmly as he remembered their evening talk. "I spoke with him last night. He is honest and smart. He spoke with great enthusiasm for owning his restaurant," he went on, a smile twisting his lips. "Most importantly, his eyes were gentle when he looked at Jessica." His words eased my worries, a balm to the fears I'd harbored for years. Jessica had stumbled through relationships in her youth, and I'd always feared for her happiness. But since meeting David, a quiet transformation had settled over her. She seemed more grounded, her laughter brighter, her spirit lighter than I'd ever known. "When you're ready, would you mind going to the chapel first?" I asked, my brain determined on one final check on Jessica. "I want to see her before I go meet you." "Okay," Robert teased, his teasing manner breaking the tension. "But don't get teary-eyed and cry. You'll mess up your gorgeous makeup." He was right. I was a crybaby. Movies, books, even a sentimental commercial could trigger me, my emotions overflowing. Today, at the vows, I knew I'd be a wreck, my mascara in danger. Down the hallway to the bridal suite, my steps echoed gently over the marble floor. Childhood memories came surging back, bright and bitter. I'd been the shy one, absorbed in books, while Jessica excelled as the effervescent center of attention. In school, at community gatherings, she attracted people with an easy charm. "Jessie has a unique charm that pulls people to her," Dad would say to Mom, his tone proud. Meanwhile, my own compliments were softer. "Maggie is responsible and diligent," he'd say, "but she needs more initiative." Since Dad's death 5 years ago, things shifted between Jessica and me. As grown women on our own course, the childhood competition had dissolved into a stronger connection. Those last few days spent with Dad, waiting vigil by his bedside, had instilled in us the importance of family. Kneeling on the bridal suite door, I heard Mom's voice summon me. "Margaret, come in, dear." Entering, I was greeted with a vision. Jessica, lovelier than I had dreamed. Her wedding dress a classic masterpiece, frail lace outlining silk satin, complementing her natural elegance. "Jessie, you look absolutely beautiful," I stammered, my voice laced with emotion. Jessica turned, her smile beaming with a radiance only genuinely happy women can display. "Thank you, Maggie," she said with sparkling eyes. "You look great yourself." Mom, smoothing out Jessica's veil, said, "You both look so lovely." Your dad must be looking down on this day from heaven." The three of us clasped hands, the moments passing in silence, the air filled with love and remembrance. The chapel of the Grand Pacific Hotel became a movie set. Bouquets of white roses and calla lilies decorated the altar, their scent blending with the afternoon air. Crystal chandeliers above reflected the sunlight into a kaleidoscope of colors, imbuing the atmosphere with enchantment. More than 100 guests waited in awed silence for the ceremony to begin. I took my seat next to Robert, holding the program tightly, my gaze wandering through the sea of faces. Relatives of Mom's and Dad's side met with Jessica's and David's friends, a web of support. Mom sat near the front, wiping tears from her eyes with a handkerchief, her aloneness evident without Dad. "Those are the college friends of Jessica over there," Robert leaned over and softly said, gesturing toward a cluster dressed in elegant gowns. They spoke warmly, their love for the bride clear. Jessica's popularity had existed throughout her student years, her friendships lasting after graduation. I admired that about her, a quality I'd never mastered. When the organ's first notes filled the air, the venue fell into a hush. David took his place at the altar with the minister, his nerves betrayed by a slight tremble. Yet his expression brimmed with love and determination, a quiet charm marking his success as a restaurant owner. I understood why Jessica had chosen him, his steady presence a perfect match. The bridal march began, and all eyes turned. Bridesmaids glided down the aisle, their dresses a cascade of color. Then Jessica appeared, supported by Mom's arm, a vision of ethereal beauty. I gasped, her beauty in the chapel's sacred light surpassing even the dressing room glimpse. The train of her dress flowed gracefully, her veil fluttering with each step. Mom walked proudly, a hint of sadness in her eyes as she grasped Jessica's arm. As Jessica walked, she smiled at each onlooker, her warmth spreading. Our eyes met, and she smiled at me particularly warmly. Tears filmed my eyes, my happiness for her joy overwhelming. Reaching David, Mom put Jessica's hand in his, their eyes meeting with a mutual glow. The minister's voice rang out, serious and clear. "Dearly beloved, we are here today to join David Harrison and Jessica Winston in marriage." My thoughts went back to Jessica as a little girl, playing dress-up in a wedding toy gown. She'd acted out pretend ceremonies with her dolls, her ideal of love germinating. Now, that ideal lay before me, a reality grown from waiting.
"David Harrison, do you take Jessica Winston as your wife?" the minister intoned. "To love, honor, comfort, and keep her in sickness and in health, in prosperity and adversity, and forsaking all others. Be faithful to her as long as you both shall live." "I do," David said, his voice firm, tears shining in his eyes. "Jessica Winston, do you take David Harrison to be your husband?" the minister went on. "Day to day to love, honor, comfort, and keep him in sickness and in health, in prosperity and adversity, and forsaking all others. Be true to him for as long as you both shall live." "I do," Jessica replied, her voice clean and lovely, her face radiant with love and hope. The ring exchange commenced, David's hand shaking as he placed the ring on Jessica's finger. "Jessica, accept this ring as a symbol of my love and devotion," he pledged. "And as a token that I've chosen you over everyone else. I'll love you till God separates us." Jessica echoed the action, her hand firm as she slipped the ring onto David's finger. "David, accept this ring as a symbol of my love and devotion," she pledged. "And as a symbol that I have chosen you before all other things. I will love you till God comes to separate us." I tightened my grip on Robert's hand, sensing his gentle return. He may have remembered our own marriage, 12 years before in a tiny church. That spring morning had been full of love, much as this moment was. The minister's last words silenced the venue. Next, with "You may kiss the bride," David and Jessica exchanged their first kiss as husband and wife. Applause and cheers burst out, the noise a wave of celebration. I applauded as hard as I could, tears running down my face, pride swelling in my heart. Jessica had found happiness at last, and I celebrated her victory. As the bride and groom walked out, guests stood, their applause a crescendo of congratulation. Jessica walked by me, giving a special wave, her smile emitting the purest happiness. Guests poured into the hotel lobby after the ceremony for cocktail hour. The area was filled with stunning flower arrangements, the clinking of champagne flutes and laughter. "It was truly a beautiful ceremony," said Robert, taking a sip of his champagne. "Yes, it was perfect," I concurred, my eyes getting misty. Jessie seemed so genuinely happy. It made me happy just to watch her. We stood at the window, observing the photo session of the newlyweds in the garden. Jessica's wedding gown glimmered in the fading light of sunset, her form beautiful against the golden hue. "Did you talk to David's mother?" I asked, trying to get more reassurance. "Yes," Robert replied, his voice affectionate. "She's a very classy woman. She was just thrilled at the wedding of her son. She told me she already considers Jessica her daughter." That piece of news calmed my heart, a tranquility flowing through me. Marriage wasn't two individuals. It was an amalgamation of families. As both parties welcomed one another with love, the life of the couple would be blessed. Mom came over, her eyes still wet with tears, her handkerchief balled in her fist. "Margaret, Robert, thanks a million for today," Mom said with her voice full of warmth as she took my hand. "Your father must be happy too." "It truly was a lovely ceremony," I said, my heart full of pride. Jessica seemed so happy, and that's all that counts. "David is a great guy too," Robert added, his voice gentle and soothing. "I am certain they'll have a decent home life together." As cocktail hour concluded, guests had started migrating towards the reception hall. The grand ballroom lay in wait, its theme more opulent than that of the chapel, a sight to behold. Every round table shone with roses in bright colors, their petals gleaming in the soft light of candles. The soft light warmed the room, bestowing a golden glow upon the crystal glasses and silver knives. We gathered around the family table, seated with David's parents and siblings, a circle of expectation forming. "I'm so excited," I smiled at Robert, my fingers touching his as refined music swelled through the ballroom. "Yes, it's going to be a great evening," he said, taking my hand, his touch firm. The bride and groom walked in, hand in hand, greeted by a standing ovation. The setting throbbed with a warm feeling of celebration, laughter and applause mingling with the music. Jessica had put on a reception dress, more relaxed but still beautiful, its soft material flowing with her steps. David beamed, his hand tenderly clasped around his new wife's, his love evident in every glance. "Ladies and gentlemen, we sincerely thank you for gathering here today to celebrate our marriage," David began. His voice carried to every corner, its sincerity resonating with the guests. "Meeting Jessica has been the greatest fortune of my life," he continued, his eyes softening. "I was enchanted by her sweetness, intelligence, and beauty, and each day brought new surprises. From today on, we start our new life as husband and wife," he promised. "With your loving encouragement, we undertake to build a home of love." Applause burst forth, a tide of approbation heightening the room's atmosphere. Jessica grabbed the microphone, her face aglow as she spoke to the crowd. "Thank you all very much for sharing this special day with us," she said, her voice shaking a little bit. "I asked for special thanks to my mother and sister Margaret for helping out with all the preparations for today. It's unfortunate that my father can't be here, but I know he's watching over us from heaven." Tears came to my eyes at the mention of Dad, an old ache stirring within me. Emotions always overcame him when he was remembered, a bittersweet deluge. Robert laid his hand on my shoulder, his touch a soft solace, earthed me. "And David," Jessica went on, looking at her husband adoringly, "meeting you totally altered my life. As long as your love is there, I was able to be myself. I am really glad to be able to walk through life with you for the rest of time." The audience clapped, their applause a muted murmur under the music. The toast preparations started, waiters threading between tables with champagne bottles. Golden bubbles swirled in my glass as it filled, the fizz an airy melody. "Ladies and gentlemen, raise your glasses," the master of ceremonies declared. Everyone stood, glasses held aloft, the room as one in celebration. I stood with Robert, holding out my glass in the direction of the faraway newlyweds. To David and Jessica's happiness forever, I toasted, my voice firm. Cheers, the group repeated, a wonderful cheer surging as glasses clicked in unison. I took a sip of champagne, hoping earnestly for my sister's happiness to come. In that instant, the day's uniqueness was heightened, a memory carved in light and love. Following the toast, dinner began, the hotel chef's multi-course meal served table by table. I glanced at the menu card, its descriptions a promise of luxury. Appetizers, soup, fish, meat, and dessert unfolded in a lavish spread. What a wonderful menu, I said to Mom beside me, my enthusiasm genuine. Yes, Jessica and David went through many tastings to choose this, she replied, her smile warm. The beef Wellington main course is especially David's favorite. I wonder if it's a popular menu at his restaurant too, I mused. It does indeed, Mom agreed. We must go dine there sometime. The waiter brought the appetizer, attractively plated smoked salmon canapes and rainbow vegetable tarts. The food was a visual treat, their refined scent wafting with the steam.
Befitting the Grand Pacific Hotel's prestige dining, they were a treat in store. Table talk was easy, a chorus of voices mingling. David's parents were warm, their conversation with Mom a friendly exchange. His brother, with a cheerful demeanor, regaled us with restaurant industry tales. I hadn't enjoyed such a relaxed meal atmosphere in ages, the tension of the day easing. After the appetizer, the soup course arrived, corn and lobster bisque, creamy and fragrant. This is delicious, Robert said, savoring each spoonful with satisfaction. The fish course is next, I said, anticipation tingling in my voice. But then it happened. Robert, who had been observing the waiters coming out of the kitchen, suddenly stiffened. The color drained from his cheeks, his eyes focusing with a firefighter's automatic awareness. What's wrong? I whispered, my voice lost in the hum of conversation. He didn't respond, his eyes on the direction of the kitchen, his hand clenched on the edge of the table. Tension coursed through his body, a silent warning I couldn't read. A waiter came to our table, bearing a stunning platter of sautéed white fish with lemon butter sauce. Other diners gasped at its beauty, forks aloft, ready to dig in. But Robert gazed at my plate, his eyes squinting as though verifying an accusation. As I picked up my fork, he leaned in close, his breath hot on my ear. We're getting out now, he stated, low and insistent, like a fireman giving a mandatory evacuation. Right now. I looked at him, bewildered. What? What is it? Other tables hummed with cheerful talk, the dinner a party uninterrupted. Why did we have to go? I could not take in the abrupt change, my heart starting to pound. I'll tell you in the car, Robert stated, standing and taking my arm gently but firmly. His eyes had a determination that would not be swayed, a sharp contrast to his normal placidity. But the food is next right now, I objected, looking about. Mom was intently conversing at the table over there, unaware of our anguish. The newlyweds were chatting merrily at their table, their happiness unaffected. Nobody appeared to notice our hasty exit, the room's attention elsewhere. Spurred on by Robert, I got up, my legs shaking. He grasped my hand, leading me towards the exit of the venue in guarded discretion. I trailed behind, my head awhirl, not comprehending the twist that had happened. I glanced back as we exited, looking at Jessica. She was smiling at a table some distance away, but for the briefest moment, I believed her eyes crossed mine. She immediately resumed her conversation, her face impassive. Through the lobby of the hotel, the extravagance gave way as we rushed to the elevator. Down to the parking garage, Robert did not speak, his face stamped with seriousness. As if a firefighter on a mission of life or death, his concentration was total. I followed at his side, holding back my questions, the tension thick with unspoken words. Arriving at the car, he unlocked it with a quick movement, ushering me to the passenger seat. Typically, he'd open my door with gentlemanly consideration, but tonight he slid behind the driver's wheel himself. He turned over the engine, emitting a deep sigh, the sound weighed down with relief. He turned to me, his face a mixture of incredulity and somber secret. Did you not notice? He asked, his tone bearing a burden I couldn't understand yet. The silence in the car made me more bewildered, a void pressing on my chest. "Observe what, Robert?" I insisted, my voice shaking. "Whatever on earth was that?" He didn't reply but engaged gear, the lights of the hotel fading behind us. A foreboding portent awakened deep within my heart, a cloud over the joy of the day. Robert's profile continued tense, as though wrestling through a maze, his silence a wall. I remained still, the hum of the engine and our breathing the only sounds, the night unfolding before us. It took a couple of minutes before the car came to halt at the shoulder of a peaceful residential road. Robert killed the engine, focusing on his hands gripping the steering wheel. Street lamps projected compound shadows over his face, accentuating the tension in his features. "Robert, tell me what you did," I begged, my voice shaking with worry. I had never seen him this way. His calm self overridden by a maelstrom of worry. He sighed, turning to me, his gaze probing mine. "Maggie, you're probably wondering why I hustled you out before you had dinner tonight," he started. "Of course," I answered, irritation creeping into my voice. "You just blurted, 'We're leaving now,' without telling me why." "Do you recall that you have a peanut allergy?" he asked, his voice measured, deliberate. "Of course I do," I answered, taken aback. "But what does that have to do with tonight?" I informed the hotel in advance about my allergy, and Jesse agreed to be careful too. Robert's face turned black, a look of pain contorting his features. "That wasn't the case," he said, his voice dark. "What do you mean?" I prompted, my heart racing. "What I saw was..." He paused, selecting his words carefully. "Jessica was discussing something with the chef before the staff brought the food out to the tables. Initially, I thought it was ordinary discussion," he went on, his gaze narrowing. "But observing closely, she was pointing at a particular plate." My heart started to pump furiously, a chill creeping in. "A particular plate," he said again, his voice lowering. "Your plate, Maggie." Jessica had confirmed the number of your seat and instructed the chef with some kind of command. "Then the chef reached for a little bottle," Robert explained, his voice shaking with adrenaline. "A little bottle. It contained peanut oil." "As a fireman, I've witnessed a lot of food allergy crises," he went on, his fists tightening. "That shape of the bottle, the color of the label, there's no error. She was teaching him to put peanut oil in your food." I was stunned, my brain racing as I attempted to comprehend the treachery. "That's not possible," I whispered, my voice trembling with incredulity. "Jesse would never attempt to hurt me. It's some kind of miscommunication. Perhaps it was a special spice or something." "Maggie," Robert said, grasping my hand, his hold firm but soft. "We understand how serious your peanut allergy is. Don't you recall when you were taken to the hospital? A few years back, when you unknowingly ate food prepared using peanut oil at a restaurant. I remembered well, the struggle to breathe, the hives breaking out all over my body. My blood pressure had dropped, the darkness closing in before the ambulance came. The doctor had warned that there might have been a life-threatening delay, his voice a harsh echo. "But why?" I asked, my voice cracking. "Why would Jesse do something like that to me?" Robert took some papers from the glove compartment, their edges creased in the dim light. "Actually, there's something that's been bothering me recently," he replied, his voice guarded. "Do you remember when I spoke with Jessica last month regarding your father's will?" "Yes," I nodded, remembering the lawyer's notice. "When I did, something she said kept me thinking," he went on. "She said, what would be done with the inheritance if something were to happen to Maggie?" I gasped, the implications striking like a punch. "Which means your dad's will has you as the main beneficiary," Robert explained. 70% of the overall assets to you, 30% to Jessica. "But there is one other thing," he continued, his tone calm. "If the main beneficiary predeceases the other, the entire amount goes to the survivor." In my head, the pieces fell into place, a chilling picture emerging. "So if I were to die, Jessica would get it all," I whispered, reality hitting home. There was silence in the car interior, the heaviness of it resting against my heart. "But why did Dad leave me a bigger share of the inheritance?" I spoke quietly. Robert glanced at me softly, his eyes gentle with compassion. "Because you lovingly took care of your father for his last decade," he replied. "You went with him to doctor's appointments 3 times a week, taking care of his daily routine. And in his final 2 years, he went on, you changed your work schedule to be with him. That was true. After Dad got sick, I dedicated my life to his care. Robert had stood by me without complaint. His devotion unshakable. Jessica never once visited, I said softly, the memory acerbic. She always had excuses. Too busy, work obligations. Your father noticed your loyalty, Robert declared, his voice stern. That's why he attempted to recompense it in his will. My face flooded with tears, the realization bitter. Love for Dad had planted resentment in my sister. That's not the whole thing, Robert said, his voice growing darker. Something David mentioned in conversation irked me. I don't think he was aware of what he was saying, but Jessica had somehow discussed opening a restaurant chain with your inheritance. Restaurant chain, I repeated, a shiver running down my spine. David didn't appear to grasp what your inheritance was, Robert went on. But considering now. I shivered, the expanse of Jessica's scheme spreading out. After I was dead, she'd planned to utilize my inheritance to open a restaurant chain with David. Tonight's plan was great, Robert growled, his tone low. At a fancy wedding, a tragic accident due to food allergies. No one would question anything. The car became quiet once more, the tension thick in the air. I gazed at my hands, trying to come to terms with my sister, whom I trusted and loved, having planned my murder for money. Robert, I eventually managed, my voice croaky. If you hadn't been there, I would have. Nothing will ever happen to you, he cut in, clenching my hand in a tight grip. Protecting you is my duty. Now what are we going to do? I said, determination stealing my voice. Robert pulled out his cell phone, his actions cautious. First, I'll report anonymously to the hotel, he explained. There's suspicion that someone intentionally added allergens to a food item of a guest who has food allergies. Then we'll go get evidence, he went on, document tonight's occurrences in depth, and sue if need be. I nodded, the choice difficult but a must, my heart weighed down by responsibility. Maggie, Robert said, his gaze locking onto mine. You have a real family. Individuals who care and shield you. Blood relationship only goes so far as family. His words made me smile for the first time that evening, a dim ember of hope flickering back. Robert was my true family, as were the friends who genuinely cared. As he started the car, he added, let's spend tonight quietly at home. Tomorrow, we'll sort everything out. I nodded, gazing at the city lights streaming past the window, my feelings for Jessica tangled but resolute. 3 weeks had passed since that night, the memory still raw. Thanks to Robert's report, a glitch was found in the kitchen of the hotel, breaking off the wedding midstream. It was announced officially as suspected food poisoning, but actually, there had been a detection of peanut oil in my food. Jessica's plan had come apart entirely, the proof incriminating. Hotel security cameras had recorded her dictating instructions to the chef, their purpose evident on tape. Messages on her phone showed elaborate schemes with David to diversify the restaurant venture with my inheritance. When the truth was discovered, David came to see me, his face white with guilt. I didn't know anything, he whispered, his voice cracking. If I had known, I absolutely would have stopped it. His genuineness sounded honest, and I decided to believe him, perceiving him as another victim of the fraud being perpetuated by Jessica. I'm proceeding with a divorce, David said during a later visit to our home. I can't begin married life this way. The fact that Jessica was using me to try to harm you. His eyes held deep sadness, the shock of her true nature a heavy burden. I hadn't spoken directly with Jessica yet. Her attempts at contact filtered through lawyers. I wasn't prepared, the anguish of our sister relationship shattered in a single night, a wound too raw. When Mom heard the truth, she hardly ate for 2 days, her sorrow evident. Between sobs she apologized. Margaret, I pampered Jessica and never cared to know your emotions. Even when you took care of your father, I depended on you and never asked Jessica anything. That was what caused this outcome, she concluded, her voice shaking. I hugged her, my own tears spilling. It's not your fault, Mom, I whispered. This was Jessie's decision. All we can do now is love each other from now on. Jessica was charged at the moment with attempted murder, her attorney citing temporary insanity. But the proof, camera video, phone messages, premeditated intent, was too powerful for such a defense to support. My everyday life was slowly coming back to peace, a gentle rhythm returning. My time as a real estate agent went smoothly, and the support of Robert never wavered. The most significant change was an increased gratitude for the people around me, a fresh sense in my heart. Last week, my old friend Sarah came to our house, her presence soothing. When I told her what happened, she said, "Blood relations don't matter. The people who really love you are your real family." She was correct, her words a soothing salve to my spirit. Robert, naturally, and Sarah, and my coworkers, neighbors, they were my real family. This morning, preparing breakfast with Robert in the kitchen, I addressed him, my voice firm. "If you hadn't stayed with me that evening, I wouldn't be standing here today. You are the most treasured human in my life. I am sincerely glad I was able to keep you safe," he said, his arm around my shoulder. Beyond the window, a new morning broke, the sky painted with gentle pink. I breathed deeply, the air clean with potential. Although painful, the experience had taught me what was most important. Heart ties over blood. True love over selfishness. My life went on, a journey now cemented on more profound connections with those who loved me unconditionally. And one day, when the timing was just right, I might just have the courage to forgive Jessica. Until then, I decided to hold dear myself and the people who had been defending me. In Revenza tales, betrayal shows the power of true relationships, affirming that love is stronger than blood when hearts speak the same language. This tale whispers that true family is made in care and protection, not duty. Did Maggie's story encourage you to love your chosen family? Leave your comments and your city down there. Where did this story hit your life? Like, subscribe, and support with super thanks to continue keeping these stories alive. Find more in the links, and may your heart be at peace in the fam.